this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketchiate, and it's four. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.
Well, hello, everybody. I am not Mike Hers. Christian and I are doing a two-man podcast today, so don't adjust your screens, don't adjust your Twitters. We're going to be doing a little light review here of an impregnable Arsenal, both in the league and in the Champions League. We'll hit Burnley, we'll hit Slavia Prague, we'll hit general musings and topics. We'll probably laugh at Talk Sports, and we'll talk about the most recent hot takes that seem to be penetrating every ounce of the soccer Twitter sphere, X sphere, hemisphere, stratosphere, whatever you got. But first, to honor our good friend Mike Hers, we'll pour one out for that homie that's actually going to be going on vacation. So he's being sensible, getting his family set before traveling to LA. Probably packing his 9mm. We know what we got to do there. So anyway, so first and foremost, my podcasting other half at West Suburban AFC, Christian, what's going on, man?
What's going on? I'm feeling a little uncomfortable that we've used the word penetrate like 3 times already this podcast. But hey, I'm going to roll with it because this is going to be a podcast where I'm rolling with it in general. I was in New York City this past weekend. I was just talking to you about this, Kelly, right before you went on air. And I watched the Burnley game like in planes, trains, and automobile style. I was watching it in a taxi. I was walking down various streets in New York City. I was watching it from a hotel lobby. I was watching it at lunch. So I didn't get quite as deep in my Arsenal mind on that one. I definitely watched Slavia Prague. I was back from New York City and had the day off. So I definitely remember more of that. But hey, you guys don't come to us for like lucid takes. You guys come to us for the bants and for the funny takes and for just an all around kind of pub feel. So that's what we're going to bring today because there's no rules. The boss isn't here. And when the boss is away, the employees will play. And that's who we are, Kelly. We're unpaid employees who are just going to have a good time tonight without the boss.
Yeah. Hysterically, for those who know Mike Hers, he is definitely the glue and the sanity of the podcast, which gives you if you know him well, gives you any indication of what he has to deal with our bullshit going on. I'm South Metro AFC. More recently, El Grande Arsenalo, which is a nice wrestling reference for all of you people who care about that, which, again, is a really weird overlap in wrestling fans and football fans. And I think that's more about lots of dorks of a certain age watching this. But, hey, we love you guys. Anyway, jumping into it, it's kind of hard to think back. And we talked about this before. And even though the Christian was, and he's not going to humble brag that his wife ran like a 3-hour and 15-minute New York marathon. Didn't your wife do that?
3:22, but yeah, close enough. Very fast. It's like 7-minute, 45-second miles for 26.2. It's very fast. I
mean, I know that your wife, who's also named Kelly, which is, again, was awkward at first, but is now just kind of part of the lore of this podcast. I know she listens,
any other way.
Yeah, it listens intently to every single podcast, and so I know for certain that she'll appreciate the shout out. So
she has even more accounts tied to this podcast than Abreu does. So I mean, that's how much she loves the podcast.
I mean, look behind the curtain here. Dean is actually Chris's wife. It's just a very elaborate profile. There is no Dean. There's only Kelly under a different profile. So anyway, jumping into Burnley. So we went with our standard lineup here as we pull it out. I mean, it's the same back four. So Calafiori, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber. Moving into midfield too, we have Zubimendi anchoring, Rice as a flanking him, and then Gyökeres, Trossard, and Saka. Did you expect to see any rotation? Because Burnley, I mean, is among the lower ranked teams in the Premier League. Is that about what you thought was going to happen?
I mean, I think where I was expecting rotation was probably against Slavia Praha, which is what we saw, because while I think Arteta tries to take every opponent seriously, I think that's a game where, you feel pretty comfortable if you have to rotate quite a few people that you're, probably not putting yourself in too much danger. I think we are no nonsense this year. I think we are saying we need to pick up points whenever we can, and we cannot leave margins to chance. And so if we've got, a favorable 11 that we really like to go with that isn't in the red zone from a physical standpoint, from a fitness standpoint, we're going to roll them out there as much as we can. And then as we saw on Tuesday, we did quite a bit of rotation. I think that's probably the way to go, because we've got Man City who's quite hot with a hot striker who doesn't seem to stop scoring anytime soon. We got Liverpool, who maybe they're starting to figure some things out, who knows? And you just can't be dropping points to a relegation side, Burnley, no matter if it's away. You got to take 3 points. So I think what Arteta's doing is, I think he's saying, let's kill the games early and let's see if we can get guys off before they amass 90-minute back-to-back games. And I think, the more we can do that, the more we can rely on kind of a preferred starting 11, but with heavy rotation toward the back end of the game. So yeah, pretty much what I expected. I expected more rotation midweek.
Yep, I think one of the interesting things and one of the biggest knocks on Arteta has been the lack of rotation in the past. And I think that he and Berta are obviously very joined up in that thinking, because I saw a stat and I shared it in one of our chats, and you might be able to go and pull it up. But I think we've had like 23 players, first team players, play minutes in all competitions this year. We have a primary 12 players that play a huge amount of minutes, but we've also rotated certainly more than we have in other situations. I think this lineup that we have right now is a preferred lineup, and I think they have a nice rhythm with each other. And given the fact that we're missing, key cogs, potentially, first choice players here, I think we're doing well in keeping this this group relatively fresh. And again, I agreed to. There's the biggest thing that we kind of think about is that it's always one in, one outs. Like it's that we get in the NBA mindset where there needs to be like load management rest days. But when you're doing an interval sprint sport like football and you're playing 2 to 3 times a week, there is a normal training thing. You need to be able to keep your body at a certain capacity to be able to keep playing, right? And keep doing that. So it made sense given the strength of Prague and given the relative strength of all areas of the Premier League for this to be a match, like you said, to come out strong, get a foothold, and kind of put your foot on the neck, and then later on be able to have people kind of coast through the end of matches until they're subbed and go from there. There's a term in basketball that is kind of like an esoteric measure of a defender's prowess, and they call it a never mind. So like if there's a really good defender or good rim protector, and they'll dribble in, and instead of attempting a difficult shot, they just pull it back, and it's not a stat. There's no way to like quantify that, but we call them never minds. And so I think my vision for that, I imagine that Arteta is looking for, is that Arsenal is like the football equivalent to a never mind for especially mid and lower table teams, that they run up to Arsenal and they give it hell for like 10 to 20 minutes and see how it shakes out. And if they're not going to be in the game, they say, fucking never mind. And they kind of like, I think that's something that the front runner and the clear best team in the division has really experienced a lot. And that is a secret, unquantifiable, hard to articulate secret sauce to making sure you're not dropping points, is that you become so difficult to deal with. And the idea of like going hell for leather to beat you only to lose anyway, despite your best efforts, becomes something that's unpalatable. And so you give it hell for a little bit and then you go, never mind. Or you pick Arsenal as the team to rotate. If you're going to play at Arsenal, you're just going to rotate and be like, fucking whatever.
And Man City, and Man City got the benefit of that for many, many years to everybody else's detriment. We saw so many teams, probably the bottom 5, 6, 7, 8 teams, do that. They rotate heavily. They try to catch them out the first 20 minutes. And if they couldn't, they were like, well, then I guess we're screwed. We're dropping points. We're going home with a loss. But hey, we were going home with a loss anyway. So good point.
It was a vent that I had an awful lot last year with Liverpool. It's like, God, why are they even like, they're not even trying. Well, I mean, that psychology enters into it here. I'm just kind of looking at the Burnley side too. I mean, they're not doing terrible in the league, I guess, for Burnley, for a team that's like a perpetual yo-yo team. I'm just kind of looking around there. I think Dubravka was good this match and has been generally pretty good. Kyle Walker doesn't have a ton in the tank, but he's still a good player. Jaden Anthony, I think, has scored like 5 or 6 Premier League goals for them already.
Yep.
Axel Tuanzebe did not have a very good game, but who does in a back four against Arsenal since you're pinned back the whole time? But I mean, they have enough like vague talent there that they probably can stay up.
Leslie Ogochukwu, former Chelsea academy.
Yep. I mean, you kind of look around the team and there's some talent there, but I think it was pretty clear from the jump that they could not handle what Arsenal was doing. I know we talked about in our chat as the flow of the game went, we were just kind of looking and saying, okay, like they're pushing and smashing really hard for the first 20 minutes, and we're just kind of like sitting there and waiting for them to punch themselves out, and then we're going to go. And then sure enough, I think it was in the 14th minute, exactly that happened. So set piece ole, which I know that I love that spite is a spite and bitterness, which are like things that fuel me as a human being.
Yes, me too.
Are key parts of our fan base that are like connecting to like how we're viewed. And we'll talk about that maybe in a more meta conversation towards the end. But another in-swinger from Declan Rice, another header back across the front of goal by Gabriel, and another goal for Big Vic. You want to take us through that?
Yeah, you did a great job of providing color commentary for me so I could remember what exactly happened. I knew Victor Gyökeres definitely scored the first goal, something like the 15th minute.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, set piece ole. I think what I did when I was walking through the streets of New York City after that happened is I paused the game briefly. I got on Twitter and I said, well, that will boil some piss.
Yeah.
And something to that extent, because what I wanted to do was maximize the opportunity to just give it to rival fans. Because to be honest with you, we're now 10 games into the season for the Premier League. We've played 15 games total this season between cup games, Champions League, Premier League. Everybody's calling this unsustainable. They're saying, well, they're going to drop because they can't keep doing this. And then we keep doing it. And it doesn't matter who we're playing against. We can play Atletico Madrid. We can play Burnley. We can play anybody in the Champions League. It seems like we are inevitable when it comes to set pieces now. It can be a corner. It can be a free kick. It can be a throw-in. It can be a penalty kick, which is what we saw in the Prague game. We just put the defense under so much pressure in so many different game states that there's just an inevitability that a Declan Rice, a Bukayo Saka, when Martin Odegaard comes back, we have, especially with Declan Rice, we have the delivery to put it exactly where we want it. And, we've talked about this in the pod before. You put a quarter on the pitch and Declan Rice is going to probably land the ball right on top of the quarter. He's just that pinpoint with his delivery. And he does it not in a looping way where the target man has to kind of generate a lot of power from it. He whips it in there on a line. And this was no different. He hits it to Gabriel with a really nice touched header across the face of the box. And that looked a lot easier than it actually was, to put it right in Gyökeres's frame, basically. And all Gyökeres had to do was react. I mean, we've talked a lot about how some of Gyökeres's goals have looked quite simple because they've been the kind of 2-yard variety, or the one that went off his midsection, or the one he kind of fumbles it in. This is another one where it looked pretty, but it didn't look very difficult. I think the hard work was in the Declan Rice delivery and the Gabriel kind of header back across the goal mouth. So yeah, if we're going to make it that easy, we're going to score a lot of goals off set pieces, and we do. And it was lovely to see us get off the score sheet with the set piece, because then we get to make all the rival fans lose their ever-loving mind.
Yep. And it's another thing that we've hit a lot on our podcast, but there's a psychology to how you beat teams. And I think that there's a mix of precision, technical precision, and physicality that comes with our set pieces that's really deflating and difficult. Like I love that what happens now is that, and I don't know if I've ever seen this in the history of football, there was like 3 cameras on Gabriel every time we attempt a corner kick. There's like 3 different angles on him because they have multiple cameras on the center back every time a team takes a set piece, because that's where so much of the action flows through. And again, like, these are like, Tuanzebe has played for a lot of different clubs. Like, this is not like going into playing on an Astro pitch in the Carabao Cup or something. Like, these are professionals, and you can see they're absolutely shitting themselves in these corners because in at some point, if you are good enough and strong enough and you have your patterns drilled well enough, and your delivery is strong enough, you can't do anything about it. Somebody's going to get ahead on it, and that was. I firmly believe it's not Declan Rice hitting an area. He's aiming at Gabriel in that area. It's basically like if you go up on a ladder and have like put a hula hoop up there, he's aiming for that from like 30 yards away with an in-swinging like looped ball. And that's why it's so good, because what are you going to do? Because you can't jump with him. You're not stronger than him. Like, they're cracking down on we're not going to let you tackle people on their way in anymore. And Gyökeres just has to be a big dude who sits there. But I will say, in Gyökeres' defense, that was like an insanely high XG, like easy tap in. But this was, I think, what's so frustrating about his injury is that, and it does seem like it's like a soft tissue injury, right? Do we have any updates on that? Because this was his best all-around game for the club as far as hold-up play, running into channels, scoring that tap in, and we'll get to it in a little bit here. He had an outstanding piece of skill that led to that was like a pre-assist for the Declan Rice header.
Yep.
Chris, do you know if there's any more information or what happened? Was it a hamstring or a quad for Gyökeres that he went off at halftime?
Yeah, we've got a friend in a group chat who's got some ties to some people who know some things apparently, and the latest word
a certain football rodent.
No, not the rodent. Well, we do have a rodent in our group chat as well, but not him. A different person that seems to be very much in the know, and not just an ITK by name, but actually knows what's going on. Says that the Gyökeres thing is kind of a non-existent factor. He should be back after the international break. So, and maybe even before then. Before then, maybe. We'll see. I think the club is tight-lipped about that, because I think we want to leave some doubt that he may or may not play on the weekend. And we know we have Sunderland coming up, which could be a tricky game. And I think Arteta has shown that the fewer cards you leave out on the table for the opposing manager to plan around, the more you leave them guessing as to what we're going to do. So I would not necessarily be surprised if Gyökeres plays this weekend. He may not start, but he may be fit enough to at least be on the bench.
And so I think Arteta is cynical enough to be really, really vague deliberately, because we've done that with the Saliba injury, and he's turned around and played. We've done with Gabriel, and he's turned around and played. Like, we're not. Ethics is the wrong word for it, but the gamesmanship that goes into this, like, we have no compunctions about doing that type of shit and vaguely updating injury. And then I totally agree with you, because like I even noticed it. It was something where it was like a pretty innocuous challenge where he was kind of bundled over by one of their like center backs, kind of clumsily took him down. He was kind of stretching a little bit, and he wasn't moving super well, but pushed and everything and walked off kind of fine. I think it was just one of those things that, because of the next goal that we'll get to, it's 2-0 versus a weak team. And it was one of those things where he came off because we were erring on the side of caution, because we were very, very confident that they were not going to lay a glove on us after the half. And again, it's maybe this is in addition to Gyökeres having a really, really strong game with the hold-up play was great. The interchange is great. Declan Rice, this was Declan Rice does this frustrating thing where it seems to take him like a month or two to get into seasons. But when he does get into form, he is an absolute monster. And I think what's great about, that you have great impactful players when they don't just get up against elite teams, but they can just go and just absolutely destroy mid and lower table teams and just dominate the game. That's what Rice did. But for this goal specifically, this is one that it was, I believe we took a corner. I think Raya got possession of the ball, quick outlet. It got to Gyökeres, who maybe the best individual piece of skill he has done in any of the comps that I've seen. He did this beautiful, almost like a golf, punch shot pass, like a 40-yard diagonal pass into space for Trossard, kind of in between the retreating midfielders and the retreating defenders. Trossard takes it in stride, at pace, left-footed, because he's a multi-footed player. Beautiful cross, and then a towering Declan Rice header back across Dubravka, who's again had quite a good season, has been quite a good goalkeeper, both for Burnley and for Newcastle, and I think another couple loans too. He's a good Premier League level keeper, and he just buries the header. Anything to say on the techers from any of the people involved, and the counter-attacking from Rice or the header? I'll let you have at it.
Well, I wanted to broaden it a bit, and just that I think this goal was coming. I was actually just watching the highlights as we've been talking, just to remind myself of some of the key passages of play and some of the milestones in the game. I think there was 2 shots that Saka had where he probably should have scored. One where, he hits it off his right foot and wasn't a great take. Dubravka saved it fairly easily. The second one, though, he takes, and Dubravka, for whatever reason, decides to put his hand up. Like, he goes to ground, but he puts his hand up straight up above him and just puts it in the perfect spot to stop the shot, which I think is...
Yeah, it more hit him than it was a save, kind of.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it was just a reflex. Like, is he putting his hand up as like for balance? Is he putting it up there because he's just trying to make himself big? I think he got quite lucky with that save, to be honest. That was, I think, pretty well taken by Saka, and I think we were kind of unlucky not to be up 2-0 already. But a couple other ones. I think Trossard took a ball around a couple of defenders towards the center of the pitch on the left-hand side and takes a shot, and it's cleared off the line. These things are all happening moments before this passage of play where we actually score. But you're right, Gyökeres is the guy who begins it, and I don't think I ever expected him to hit a ball like that. I mean, watching him in Portugal, watching him with us and with the preseason games he had, watching him in the first 10 to 12 appearances he's had with us this season, I didn't think he had that punch ball in him. That looked like something that an Odegaard would hit or a Rice would hit, a Zubimendi would hit, not a bull in a china shop striker like Gyökeres. And yet, I mean, you can fault very little about the pass. The pass is excellent. It goes through kind of the gap in the defense and the lines that are running back toward their goal. Trossard makes a great run to get onto it, and we've got their defense stretched. And then Declan Rice makes a third man run. And I mean, what can you say? It's a beautifully taken header. It looked a lot like, a Cristiano Ronaldo special header where he gets up kind of early and floats in the air for a bit and decides he's going to, have a nap, have a drink, have a conversation with his mom on the phone, and then decides once the ball gets there, he's just going to, pop it in the back of the goal. And that's what he did. Beautiful, aesthetically pleasing goal from start to finish, I will say. And yeah, we were up 2-0. Didn't really look like the game would be a contest. Thought maybe we'd actually go up 3-0, 4-0. We probably should have, but didn't. But that goal was coming, and I'm glad that it did, because I don't think any of us wanted to necessarily see out a 1-0 through 90 minutes. I mean, we feel it feels pretty comfortable these days. Like, my blood pressure doesn't rise like it used to when we used to go up 1-0 or up 2-1, because you always knew there was a mistake in us, or we would be punished to the max, we used to always say, or we were playing Mustafi and Socrates in the back line, and you knew that goals were coming. I feel really relaxed when we go up. And so while I would love a 2-0 or a 3-0 or a 4-0 because it looks good on paper, you get a lot more to celebrate. Even a 1-0 doesn't worry me these days, except for maybe against the biggest teams like a Man City or Liverpool. So yeah, I think the reason why I want more goals though earlier is that we can do that thing where we can sub off some of our players. Because I think what we're doing this season and that we're getting criticized for is that we're playing. I think we all wanted to see kind of a more of a direct game, a more transitional game this season. And we got guys like Eze and Gyökeres and Madueke, who I think are more likely to play that way. That's just kind of more their skill set. What I think we're doing right now, and as we're seeing our injuries pile up, is I think we're actually playing a more measured game on purpose.
Yep.
Because the more helter-skelter, more hell for leather, more transitional game you play, the more likely you're going to sustain injuries.
Yep.
And so I think we're managing out each and every game perfectly. And I think you can do that when you don't give up goals, let alone shots on target. And I think we're seeing the benefit of that is that we're going up. We can sub early. We can take minutes off legs. We can spare players, key players, for weeks when we've got 3 games or 2 games even. And we need to do that now because we're pretty bare bones in attack. I'm hoping that we get some of these guys back after the international break. But we look a lot like right now what we did in parts last season, and we've added a bunch of players to our attack, and yet the injuries still remain. So I think this management of games where it looks slow and ponderous and sometimes painful to watch, I think is actually in part not just a strategy to control games, but a strategy to minimize injury.
Yep. And I think it speaks of just even guiding the podcast. Like, there wasn't a ton of incident in the second half, but even and I'll kind of talk a little bit. I'm trying to push towards the end, the kind of the old media narrative, because there's always like a everybody getting in line behind Sky Sports narrative on Arsenal. That happens at the end of every week. But like in the Burnley match, they had a single shot on target that came late. I know they hit the post right at the death, but it was about 2 minutes past time. To that, it seemed like it was just more of a charity thing. I mean, we completed over 100 more passes than them, despite basically being in second gear for 3/4 of the game. We had 9 shots on target to their 1. We only took 13 shots, but again, 9 on target. 6 corners to their 1. Like over 90% passes, almost 500 passes. Like it was one of those matches where we got up in the 35th minute, took our primary striker off, and just cruised the rest of the way. And again, like what are you going to do? I think the idea that we're here for the entertainment of the neutral when we finish second 3 years in a row and are absolutely getting ravaged for being bottlers and not getting over the line is comical. And I think we need to take a step back and look at that. We've conceded 3 goals in all competitions this year, and one of them is like a .01 xG Szoboszlai screamer.
Yep.
To rescue that point. And like, I mean, it's just one of those things where, I mean, the strategy is to lean into what we're great at. And I mean, what we're best at is denying chances and just smothering you both ways. And again, when we have our full complement of defenders and an elite goalkeeper and Declan Rice and like the system that's designed to go and mitigate your opportunity, of course we're going to lean into that more, especially when we're down literally half of our attackers. And like to the extent that we just played the youngest player in the history of the Premier League at right wing, because he's literally our second string right winger right now, which seems like a decent time to transition over to the Slavia Prague match. So pulling up lineups, which I'll do here in a second. I lack the aesthetic professionalism of Mike Hers and having like 18 windows open and in a line of conversation. I'm used to rambling, which I'm doing really well right now. But if we're pulling up our lineup for Prague, again, we anticipated a lot of turnover. And you could almost write this lineup up, although I do have two specific surprises, I guess. This one started out with Raya at goalkeeper. I think Kepa was out with some sort of muscle injury. I don't know if he fell off the bench or what the hell happened to him. But 2 weeks ago, he was bitching about playing time and now somehow hurt himself in training.
He sprained his arm telling Arteta he wasn't going to come off the pitch
doing
for
the hard pointing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that does snap your elbow out a little bit. But we had the normal center backs plus Timber. Hincapié, I guess, a little bit of a surprise to me, starting at left back as more of kind of a center back left back rather than Calafiori. I think we're being very deliberate about limiting Calafiori's minutes and keeping him off the training table because he's such a especially lacking our normal complement of attacking players. I think he becomes more important now. But I was personally kind of surprised that Miles did not get this match. We had Norgard come in as a true kind of destroyer 6. Declan Rice playing a more advanced role as the 8s. Monieri coming in directly in for that attacking midfielder role for Eza. And then Trossard, who apparently plays 90 minutes or plays almost every match at left wing now. Saka kind of on cruise control on the right wing. And everybody's favorite solution to the problem that we always seem to have, Mikel Merino back up front as I won't even call him a false 9. It's just like his role is now Mikel Merino, which is like somehow being a disconnected forward who sometimes does central midfielder stuff, but is somehow like a elite box finisher. And we saw all of his weirdness and discontinuity that makes him really useful in a truly a bizarre player in a bizarre role against Prague. I mean, again, I don't know anything about Slavia Prague. It did feel like their wing backs were pretty good, especially the Mboji was pretty good. He stuck to Saka quite a bit. Their center forward is about 9 feet tall and is a complete imbecile. And I want to say too, he literally got suspended for 6 matches already in their domestic season for punching an opposing goalkeeper in the testicles in a match. So seeing Shori out there, all 8 feet tall of him was pretty interesting. But what is your takeaway for the lineups? Is that what you expected? You said you expected big rotation. Did anybody stay in that you thought would be out, or did anybody come out that you wanted to stay in, or what did you think of the lineup?
I mean, I like that we couldn't play Zubimendi because he was suspended with 2 yellows.
Which I think ended up working out great for us and great for him,
Yes.
because Zubimendi is going to have such a high workload throughout the rest of through the through the festive season. So like this was a nice forced day off for Zubimendi.
Yeah, and I think it goes underappreciated, under talked about, that we're no longer the Arsenal where half our squad, got to put their feet up during international breaks. We have essentially a squad, 22 members, almost all 22 members play internationally. They're all going away and playing for their country over the international break if they're fit. And so if you're going to have a squad this big, you better use it, because they're not getting a break over the international break. It's a misnomer to call it a break. In other words, it's just playing for your country.
Yep.
And we have every player I'm looking at that we had in our starting lineup, bar, I don't know, I guess, does Norgard still play for Denmark? Is it?
Yeah, I think I don't know if he's not nailed on starter. He's certainly in the squad.
But he's still going.
I don't think
all the
Denmark
rest
has
of the
enough
guys,
players to.
Yeah, all the rest of the guys are all starting, playing meaningful minutes for their. And Winery is playing, obviously, I think he's playing for the U21s, maybe, but still playing
Miles.
Games.
Even Miles is still heavily involved for all the England camps too. Even though he's not playing a ton of minutes, he's still in every camp, and I think the last international break, he's still starting matches too. Yeah. I know that he's somebody that the manager really likes, and even going deeper, I think like Dauman still plays for like the U18s or U21s also. Like, so you really get deep in the bag there. And I mean, you're right. Like, when we go to international breaks, it's not a break unless you're injured.
Even Abrochieze, who didn't used to play for England, now getting regular call-ups. So yeah, I'm looking down the list of 18 guys or 20 guys we had in the squad that day, and Tommy Setford, maybe Alexi Rojas, but these are guys that are only on our bench because we had so many injuries. These guys would have never made a match day squad had we had more fitness in the squad. So yeah, I think you look at it, I think Norgard kind of had to start, to your point, but I think that was a very useful conclusion, because I think we needed to rest Zubimendi anyways. And I think this is why we bought Norgard for a £10 million signing with a lot of experience, who should be able to see through a game against an inferior opponent. No offense intended, but if you can't start a Norgard at the base of your midfield with, Declan Rice and our defense behind him, then you probably made a mistake in signing him in the first place, which I think we didn't. And by the way, about Norgard real quick, I know it's been said on other podcasts, but I've seen the GIFs, the videos of when the Champions League music's playing, and they're panning, the starting 11, and it pans across Norgard. Norgard's just looking around, taking it in, because I think this is a guy who at 31 thought this moment would never come. I think he had a real emotional moment signing for Arsenal, because he realized he was making that big step up, a lot like, what it was like for Gyökeres, a lot like what it was like for Eze to come back to Arsenal and play for Arsenal. For Norgard, it's about, playing at the highest levels at a time in his career where he didn't think that was going to be possible. So him finding himself in the starting 11 in the Champions League, I think, was a dream come true for him. So that was lovely to see from a human standpoint. And then, I think Winery needed minutes. I think it's been interesting to see how his minutes have been managed. I don't think he always covers himself in glory, especially off the ball. But, I think this is a game that felt perfectly suited to him, especially because Eze's played a ton of minutes for us already this season with Odegaard out. You would love to see Declan Rice get some time off, but who else do you have in midfield really to play with all of our injuries? So I guess he kind of had to play. And then, your point about Hincapie was a good one, in that it's a little bit surprising that he started, but especially because he's coming off injury himself. But I think it was time we saw him in a match where maybe the pressure wasn't quite as great. I mean, I think, anytime you go away in Champions League, there can be pressure, but I think, you should be able to see out a win against a team from kind of a lower league. And it was nice to see what he brings to the table. So lovely to see him. And then, the rest of it kind of sorts itself. I think you kind of had to play Mikel Merino at striker. You kind of had to play Leo Trossard at left wing. And then, Saka at right wing. I mean, I guess you could have given... Some people said we should have played Dauman as a starter there. I think that's crazy.
I think they would have. They already. I saw some of that too, and I think it justifies Mikel's thinking when they were taking chunks out of him immediately when he came in.
Yeah.
this is again a team from the Czech Republic. This is a team that have players that cannot and will not play at a Premier League level, and there's a psychological thing, and like we were talking about the youngest footballer ever coming on. I think there's a
true.
There would be it's kind of like the unwritten rules of sport, right? Like there would almost be like a arrogance and a self-indulgence about including a 15-year-old in the starting lineup, saying it's like, we really don't have to worry about you. We're going to put a literal child out here.
Yep.
Like who can't even change in our changing room. Like, and he's like, we're so confident that you guys suck that like, I think it would have been a legitimate safety risk for Dauman. And Saka is one of those players that he is maybe the best player on our team about like managing and playing in bursts. And it does drive me crazy sometimes. I think he sometimes doesn't know how to turn it off. But this is very easily like a fitness match where Saka can just like, again, keep it in proverbial second gear and be fine, and hold up to some of the clobbering that you get as a winger for an elite club playing against a non-elite club in their stadium with all the adrenaline running high and everything. But what I do like about this is I think we knew that we wouldn't have the type of like smothering defense and technical security we would otherwise, but we were okay with that. And we were confident that our style of play and our patterns of play were going to be able to weather whatever storm they might have had. And it was another one of those situations where I do think that because we don't have the bodies and we don't have the full like elite kind of like best 15, 16 players like there to sprint at all hours and at all times, like we did the little brother with the hand on the forehead a little bit, where they pushed us hard and they fouled and they ran hard and they took advantage of a poor and overwhelmed ref that was a little bit beholden to the crowd and everything, and they did their flares and did all that. But I don't think it's necessarily a lifeline. It was just a stark reminder of that the handball rule is shit, especially on the continent. And I have a lot of sympathy for Slavia Prague, who I mean, they were not necessarily getting the better of it, but they were putting up a good fight and throwing some elbows and swinging some fists and everything. So seeing a jumping hands up kind of graze on the arm, called a penalty I have some sympathy for him.
Yeah, I do wish that there was a governing body that sat over the entirety of at least European football, and some of these really strange differences in how the laws are interpreted or even written. And the handball one, I think, is the best example of it, where I think in the Premier League, it's almost on the other end of the pendulum, where you kind of don't really understand when a handball is a handball and when it's not. Like you hear a lot about like, did he make himself bigger? Was there proximity? Was there this? Was there that? It almost feels like in Europe, unless your arm or your hand is like literally touching the side of your body, or it's tucked in the front, like if it hits your hand, no matter how close the opponent is, where he's striking it from, or whether it comes off a body part, or whether it's part of a natural motion of trying to head the ball, whatever it is, like it almost always gets called a penalty.
Yeah.
And so if I'm Slavia Prague, I'm probably pretty upset about that call. And if I'm Arsenal and that gets called on us, I think I'm also very upset about that call, because I'm not sure what that player is supposed to do. He's not attempting to hit the ball with his arm. I think his arm is in a natural position for what he's aiming to do, which is to jump for the ball, right, and clear it. And it happens to, I believe, ricochet and hit his arm in a manner that's also, by the way, gone through a number of bodies, where he has no idea where the ball is going to go. I just think it's really harsh to award a team basically an 80% chance of a goal off of something like that, where the ball is never going in the goal to begin with from the get-go, and B, the player has no intention of putting his hand out to stop the direction of the ball from the beginning. So I don't know. I often think about like how could the rules look different if maybe you penalize a team for a handball that maybe is unintentional. Maybe it's like one of these where maybe there's an indirect kick from inside the box somewhere, right, where you give the attacking team some advantage, but you don't give them basically a free goal. But that requires a lot of coordination, a lot of buy-in from teams, a lot of buy-in from the authorities. So it's a tough one. I just wish that there was a bit more, and this is like a buzzword with me with refereeing in general, is consistency. I wish there was consistency from league to league, from tournament to tournament, from competition to competition. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get it. So
yeah, I think it's one of those things where on the continent, they like the Premier League view of how they write the rules for handball is like incredibly esoteric and tries to conceive of a consideration for every possible situation. Whereas like on the continent, it's like if you're making your body silhouette bigger and it stops that shot on target, it's a penalty. So I think it's like it's still problematic from both perspectives. It's just one side, like again, the Premier League has like 10 different stipulations. And in this situation, and we've even seen that too, where like Odegaard like very obviously had a handball where he like blocked a shot in the box, but because it was his planting hand, like it by the right of the rule, it technically wasn't, even though it was like very obviously like, of course, like now you can just hurl this up to the ground as long as you put your hand down and hit it, like it can't be a penalty. So like we're in that situation where, and it makes Premier League refs look worse than they already are, because it means that there's like 10 different judgment calls on a penalty. And if it's viewed differently on a different day by one player and one of the 10 considerations, it looks fucking nuts. Whereas like it's a lot harsher on the continent, but I think the idea is to put those stipulations in place so that there isn't the arguments. Like the anger is at the rule, not the referee's evaluation and interpretation of this incredibly layered and ridiculously complicated rule. But on the good side though, I mean, Saka's taken his penalties well this year. Again, he did do the Johnny Big Balls on Gyökeres too, and he absolutely, even though their goalkeeper, who apparently I think came in for an injured keeper and has like kept the job because he's done quite a good job in the league, guesses the right way, and Saka absolutely bashes it side netting, unsavable. Again, I think it was Arsenal Vision or Arsblog called it a Harry Kane like penalty, which as much as I don't want to invoke that man's name as a positive thing, that motherfucker can hit penalties when it's not in knockout competition. And boy, did he ever leather that through. And we got to halftime, and
there was one critical difference, by the way, between Saka's and Harry Kane's penalty kick taking. Saka wasn't drooling himself to death before he took it.
That's right. That's Harry Kane drools onto the ball, so even if you get contact on it, it kind of slides through. It's like an unintentional lubrication.
Exactly, lubricates the ball so that the keeper, even if he does get a hand on it, it's just going to slide right through. We're talking about penetration and lubrication on this this podcast. You can't.
That's why we collectively on this podcast have 9 children, because of this type of nonsense.
9. I think Mike is like 9 on his own.
Yeah, I know he's got a litter. I mean, just the ones that he pays for. Let's be honest. We'll see if he actually listens to this. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to you because I got to step out for about 30 seconds. So I'm going to need you to monologue about just refresh your memory. We got to the other side of halftime, and Mikel Merino and Leandro Trossard do 30-plus-year-old utility player things and swoop in and put this one out of sight. So you can go ahead and tag in for a sec.
Sure. Yeah. What's there to say about Merino that hasn't already been said? He's quite the strange player, and I think all of us struggle to evaluate him. We bought him from Real Sociedad as a kind of a number 8/6/8. So when you think about him as a midfielder, you think about him doing midfielder stuff, right? Being able to hold the ball up, being an adequate passer, being really good in the duels, from time to time being able to strike the ball well. And I think what's weird about him is that he does half of those things kind of well, but we always joke amongst ourselves, we probably said it on the podcast, that it's like the further away he gets from goal, the less technical he gets, and the fewer things he does well, and the closer he gets to goal, the more things he does well. I don't think this goal was the headed goal, was it? Where it's launched up in the air and he beats the keeper, who kind of, I think this is the second one, maybe this is the third one, so forgive me if I've got the order mixed up, but the keeper goes up to kind of punch the ball out, and he sort of misjudges it, and Merino just sort of heads the ball past the keeper. Actually, I just looked at it now. It just came up on my screen. It was the other one where Leo Trossard is on the left wing and crosses it in, and Merino does this really soft touch with the inside of his foot, making a nice run off the center back's blind side. Oh yeah, right there. He's got plenty of, that's kind of terrible defending, if I'm being honest. But Marino runs right between two center backs and then does this little hop. And I mean, sometimes he looks like he's wearing concrete boots. When the further he gets from goal, the more he looks like he's got concrete boots. But the closer he gets to goal, he has this really soft touch that he just kind of caresses the ball into the near post. And you see him in those moments now. And I remember when he first started playing striker for us last season, and we're like, what are we doing here? This is Mikel Merino, like the guy we thought we were buying is like a 6/8 playing striker. And then, he doesn't really do strikery things. He's not really good with his movement. He doesn't drop deep to connect. He's not a back to the goal kind of player. But you get him in some space. You get him kind of attacking balls in the air. In this case, you have him run between two center backs who don't know how to defend. And, that's a pretty special finish for a guy who, has never played striker in his life. And I will say, I think I saw a stat that said he's had 25 goal involvements this calendar year. Yeah. I don't know if that's for just club or club and country, but that is an absolute ridiculous return for a guy who's never played striker before.
I think it's the combination between, because he scores all the time. This is not just an Arsenal. Like, he scores all the time for Spain too.
For Spain now, yeah, exactly.
I think it's one of those. He's always. I mean, again, he was like a destroyer defensive midfielder when he played at Newcastle and Borussia Dortmund. Like, this is not a player that like snuck up on anybody. If anything, he's a player that had a relatively high profile and kind of like flamed out at the highest level. And he kind of, the impression of him is that he retreated back to Spain and never got a bigger move because he wasn't quite at it. And even when he was playing at Sociedad, he was more of a dual winner. And so here's what, and again, and part of the big concern when he came over is that he wasn't winning duels anymore. And it's like, Jesus, is this guy like too slow or doesn't have the physical capacity to do that? And so we were talking about this time last year. It's like, this guy's a fucking clown. Like, why do we get so preoccupied with getting this player in? Like, I know he's good in the locker room. He speaks well and ostensibly plays for this Spain national team and starts sometimes. It's like, I don't see it, but he added this entire layer to his game in the same way that like Declan Rice. When we bought Declan Rice, we thought we were going to get the guy who was going to be like a destroyer and like a high-level destroyer. We didn't know that we were going to get maybe the best set piece taker in the world. Yeah, exactly. It's just something that he added at an elite level. And like Merino, since he's come to Arsenal, and more specifically since he's gone into this emergency striker role, he's just like it's like renovating a house and you didn't know a door was behind the drywall and you open it up and it's like this like beautiful, pristine end of the wing of the house that all of a sudden adds tons of value. And that's what's happened with Merino being striker, is that like we've unleashed this guy who's just an incredibly talented finisher who has that kind of like very good striker knack for always being in the right place. And when he gets it, he just doesn't make a whole lot of finishing mistakes. The amount of times that we stress out about strikers lashing at the ball and mistouch, he really rarely does that. Now, because he's Mikel Merino and he's a midfielder by trade, he doesn't get in those positions a ton. But when he's there, it's just, again, like, I think sometimes, especially when we really are doing our thing that we're doing now, which is manage matches, I think other teams can maybe get complacent in the fact that there's not like a quick, they're not prepared for like the quick punch. And it was one of those where like they came out and they were not ready for Trossard to run it and cross on his off foot, a perfect curling cross. And they were not prepared for Mikel Merino to do a leaping shin high volley into the side netting that was unsavable. Like, it's kind of a connection of like quality and kind of, I'm sure they were betting. It's like, all right, well, it's a 1-goal game. Like, let's dig in here. And it just completely popped their balloon. But again, like, if we do some of the things that we expect to do or we hope to do this year, like there's a pretty big island of misfit toys that Mikel Arteta has taken in and kind of repurposed into something that that really does a lot of things well and can cope with a lot of different game situations and personnel situations, because we have prioritized versatility and technical versatility in place of basically, if you counter what Liverpool does, which is like highly specialized, very, very expensive individual players that play in one spot, we've kind of bought multiple players that do different things and solve different problems. And I think maybe they're this is going to get really deep in the bag, but there's like the character Ian Malcolm from the book book and movie Jurassic Park. In the book, he does a long talk about it's something called, he calls it fintelligence. It's so basically like people get paid a lot of money for being very good, having a very small, narrow area of expertise. And the people
a deep wall of very narrow expertise. Yeah.
And so people who do it's like the football equivalent, how Liverpool paid an insane premium for players who play one position and have like one skill set that they view as being worth an elite amount of money for an elite output in this one thing. Whereas Arsenal have gone the other way and bought multiple players that their value is that they can solve lots of different problems and play in different positions and do other things really well. And even to the point where they have a third position past their primary positions, that when push comes to shove, they can still allow you to function as a football team in those situations. Mm-hmm. And Mikel Arteta has created a team full of them, whereas Liverpool has a team full of specialists, siloed specialists, and the kind of the kind of push and pull of strategy and recruitment strategy is I think we see who's winning as of right now, and long may it continue. I mean, moving into this, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Real quick, it's funny you say that because I'm reminded of sort of the end of the Ainsley Maitland-Niles era. I'm sorry, I'm like bringing up all the ghosts of Arsenal players past. I guess it's becoming Christmas soon, so. Mm-hmm. But I remember a lot of the reporting coming out of the club and journalists who are close to the club would always say things like, the problem with Ainsley Maitland-Niles is that he just doesn't own a position, and that he really wants to play this position, but the club really want him to play this position. And it's almost like we're the reverse now, where it's like we've got guys who can play so many different positions. It doesn't really matter that they don't own a position, because they could be playing. I mean, look at like Calafiori. He could be playing left back, but really he's nominal left back. He's playing wherever the fuck he wants to play.
Makes a bunch of center forward runs.
Exactly. Sometimes he's the furthest forward guy, or he could be playing center back for Gabriel, and he's maybe playing a little bit deeper, a lot deeper. You've got like a Declan Rice who covers every blade of grass on the pitch. You've got Eze, who can play out left. He can play centrally. He can play out right if we had to. Madueke plays both wings.
Yeah,
Saka used to play left back. Now he plays right wing. You can play left wing. You could put him you could put him at attacking midfield.
Yeah, with
crazy.
A fun game to play is always to look at Declan Rice's touch map at the end of a match. Mm-hmm. It looks like a drunk girl playing darts with an unlimited amount of darts. He goes and he literally will take a touch, multiple touches in every area of the pitch. And we saw this is maybe the week that he's kind of like hitting the train is chugging and it's not going to stop now. The amount of interceptions and ground he's carrying, going everywhere and carrying the ball up the pitch and passing it. And again, even going into the third goal for Marino, which is like pure those two players, whereas Declan Rice popping up, making a beautiful inch perfect like aerial pass from a weird spot on the pitch where they didn't expect it. And Mikel Merino just selling out, which again, another like perfect header. I mean, it was obviously like a boner from the goalkeeper. He didn't think Mikel Merino was going to go up for it, so he tried to basket catch it, which is like a huge no-no.
Yes.
For goalkeeping, like you want to high point the ball. And he thought he was going to basket catch. He thought it was in a no thing. Like the center back tries to stand up Marino. Marino just backs right through him like he's not even there. Yep. And then goes up and does like a no look flick header directly into the goal before they have any idea what to do. And again, it's the both of those players being very, very locked in with a specific role. Rice was like, oh, there we go. I can put that, and he can get to it and puts it up there with, the perfect arch, perfect whip, immense touch. And Marino having the as Troy Deeney would say, the cojones to go up there and do that. And like you gamble that an inferior team is going to have inferior players at the position. It's not Thibaut Courtois back there. It's not Allison back there. It's a guy that's playing in Prague in the Czech Republic, and it means that he's not going to be locked in for everything. And I would bet with how we played this match that there was some tape out there that this guy's a good shot stopper, but he's not good in the air. That would be my guess too. Is that the scouts go and even against this type of club, we would do tactics too, and that ball reeks of. Remember, guys, if you find yourself in a spot to make a run and make an aerial challenge, the tape on these guys is that they're not going to be able to keep us out in the box. And that seems like, okay, nope, we know this, pop it up there. And again, another Mikel Merino. And I think another kind of aside, I don't know if you read this too, but with Merino, I think it sounded like his family traveled with him and even his father, which is why he did around the flag twice.
On the flag, yep.
Yep. So it was definitely a cool thing for him to get another brace, which he's done multiple times this year, both for Arsenal and internationally. And again, the goal bag gets bigger for your friend and mine, Mikel Merino.
It does. And I keep thinking about, you said something earlier about how he doesn't get himself into a lot of positions to score, but when he does, he tends to score. And I was like, I wonder what his XG versus goal output looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you'll be surprised by this. I went on FBref. I sorted it by all competitions for his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as long as XG has been recorded and in the competitions it's been recorded.
Mm-hmm.
He has 35. Well, he's got I just ruined it. He's got 45 goals in his career.
Yeah.
12 seasons over 5 clubs. Mm-hmm. His XG is 35.7. So he's outperforming his XG by
like 25%. Yeah.
And he only has 45 goals. I mean, this guy has proven time and time again that when he gets into positions to score, he actually converts them at a very, very, very almost basically elite level. I mean, you look at it from an Arsenal perspective. Since he's gotten to Arsenal, he's got 6.8 XG and 10 goals. So it's incredible, the goal return, given how few chances he's had, really.
And the fact that how many of those goals he's gotten playing out of position, both as a substitute and, I mean,
exactly.
He's truly one of those players that if he doesn't have the physical, like in change of pace and speed and acceleration, he's like a League Two striker, but in finishing, yes. He's a top third of the Premier League striker. If he could run, he would have been a striker his entire life, and he'd be a 20 goal per season elite striker. But what is incredibly, but here's what's we got to take from this is that, one, he's willing to do this, and he's still able to run and finish like this. Two, the coaching staff recognize this, and I think it goes to the synergy between the playing staff, the manager, and the technical and scouting staff to say, like, this is a viable solution for us. And think about what could have happened in the event that Mikel Merino can't play there reliably. You're shifting Trossard over there, and who you're playing at left wing? Are you playing Saka at left wing, and now Max Daumann is starting? Are you playing Winieri at right wing now, and you're playing Eze again? And you're there's a knock-on effect where if you just put him there because he's like your utility infielder in baseball, the blessing of playing him there is that he's not going to burn out because he's playing a lot of minutes. He's just playing in different roles when and where you need him. That's why you have a utility infielder. You need to play second base, play second base. You need to play third base.
And he's a switch hitter. Yeah, exactly.
And he's a switch hitter. And there's no switch hitter jokes because Dean already went to bed. So, which is good. Right. I think we have to do a little bit of a shout for Daumann too. I mean, the youngest player in Champions League history is the youngest player in Premier League history, and he comes on and immediately starts running at people with zero fear and starts getting chopped down as you do. I think everything you hear of Daumann, and I think what's funny about him is that Declan Rice always talks about him, because I think it seems like Declan Rice is like the specific mentor for him.
Yes.
And so he mentions him a lot of times, and whenever Max does something, which is frequently when he does play, talking about how he's just totally unfazed by all of it. And he's one of those, it really does seem like Daumann is one of those like rare prodigies that is just, this seems to be all he does. And the expectation is that wherever he plays, whenever he plays, he's going to be among the best players on the pitch. And it was so cool to see somebody who doesn't turn 16 until New Year's Eve is all of a sudden popping up and putting the shits up the left back somehow.
Yeah, he had that outrageous piece of skill where I don't know why the ball was coming at him in the way that it was, but it was kind of maybe it was a cross-field pass, a switch of play, and it looks like it's going out of bounds. He sticks his left boot out and he deads the ball right in front of him, and then he basically shrugs the defender off and plays a back pass. I mean, that little bit of skill was just outrageous for anybody to do, let alone a 15-year-old. So yeah, I love that he expresses himself Every time he goes on the pitch, he's not intimidated by the moment, the occasion, the opponent, the guy who's going to be marking him all game. He just continually goes at players all the time. And I love also too that he's not a guy who's like trying too hard to impress. He knows when to take a guy on. He knows when to lay it off. He seems to be a guy who's wise beyond his years. I know I wasn't that intelligent as a 15-year-old. I certainly couldn't play football.
I would be much more of the Neymar prodigy rather than the Max Dowman prodigy.
Well, especially with your haircut, Kelly, back in the day.
I know I'd have the Neymar chicken haircut. Yeah, I think we have to throw it out for Max, and it's one of those things where like it speaks incredibly well, and I try to touch on this with Mertesacker because I think he's maybe like the quiet force behind everything. How Mertesacker, remember, is running the academy now. He took over basically immediately after his playing career is over, and he's done so far is help finish up Bukayo Saka, produce Miles Lewis-Skelly, Ethan Nwaneri, Max Dowman, and not only that, he's created an environment such that the true players that are making big impacts. There's a couple guys that left, and again,
Balogun and Nketiah,
like Balogun and Nketiah, who are starters, and are going to be, have played international minutes, and then like even players who have left the academy have gone to Manchester United, and like without Arsenal's support structure, they're not people you think about as much anymore. But Cheeto and Aiden Heaven, and so I think not fail. I think it's cruel to say that they're failures at like 18 or 19, but their stagnation in their careers mean that if you can chart a path for players like Dowman, and you can look like what better sell for staying at the academy and Max extending his contract and get like the pre-contract or whatever for when he turns professional. He's actually old enough to sign an employment contract. He can't do it now. What better advertisement is that's like, look at our first team. We go to Champions League matches and you are playing. When we are down a left back, you will play. Like we will train you to be positionally versatile and put you in every position to make England teams, start in Premier League, meaningful Premier League matches young. If you're young enough, you're old enough, or if you're good enough, you're old enough, and be cared for in a way that exceeds the kind of like meat market that Chelsea and Manchester City have done, which is selling you for profit and moving on to the next person. We don't do that, and I think that there's this is maybe the two things have to happen simultaneously, right? Because you have culture and you have success, and you can have great success with a shit culture, and you're going to lose people, and it's going to make for an unpleasant times behind the scene. Like you said, exactly that. It's going to be up and down. And you can have great culture without any success, and people will get sick of not having success and say, I love it. And I think that maybe Arsenal were late Wenger years and beginning of Arteta was like the real life thing of that. It's very comfortable here. Great facilities, people treat you really well, people respect and like you, but there's not a lot of on-pitch success. And I think what Arteta almost certainly tried to do when he came here, part of his mission statement and kind of Berta's mission statement too, is we want to put those things in balance. And the health of the academy and the success of academy players. And again, we're kind of in that point where we're going and buying not from the top shelf, but from like the kind of upper type shelf, and we're putting these players in, and they're becoming what they should be and what they are meant to be, and they're becoming the best versions of themselves as people and as players. That's a really powerful argument to retain your elite academy players, motivate players to put up a stink so that they can come here, which it sounds like Piero Hincapié did that. Confirmed that Victor Gyökeres did that with other options. Players will make things. David Raya did that here too. I think that the word is out now that this is the place that you go to get elite coaching, be treated like a human being, and live in a great place and get paid well. And that's even something too, or we were even looking at the kind of like open-ended raise for Trossard. It's like, why do we just pay Trossard more money? We didn't even extend his contract. Well, look at how valuable that is now when he's playing every match.
Imagine if we didn't have him right now, we'd be screwed. Exactly.
Like imagine if to keep him happy and productive, and we don't necessarily want him here because maybe we don't have a place for him when he's going into like his 33-year-old season. Keeping him happy and valued and part of the project has been invaluable for this season because he's the only left wing we have right now. and he's turning in goals and assists and playing every match. And again, if I'm him at his age and he says, you know what, the club liked me enough and said, you know what, we respect you and we value you, here's some more money. Fucking great. Like, let's go. Like, I want to repay that. And like that crabby little shit is like flying around the pitch, like, and he's playing the best football of his entire career, which is great. I want to get back to a question now that we're kind of wrapping this up.
I got it for you.
Yeah, can you go ahead and pull it up from Charles, 87 DFW. So this is kind of the thing that's been in the background, but is kind of coming in now. We've conceded 3 goals in 15 matches in all competitions. Again, like we said, one of them was a worldly free kick from Szoboszlai. Every match, it feels like we win the XG battle. Like very, very rarely does somebody produce half a XG. It's even getting like catching on in like the kind of like modern football lexicon of, oh my God, Arsenal allowed a shot on target. Like we must be like, this is making us furious. Like our dominance defensively and our smothering of the match and our ownership of that part of the match has become so such a universally accepted truth that people are starting to make jokes about it because that's how much it's intense it is. But Charles says Chelsea had 10 matches with 0 goals conceded in 2005, and so Chelsea's the benchmark. I think they conceded 13 goals the entire season.
15 or 13.
15. Yes, some insane number. So like prime Mourinho, stink out every match, and you can't get past us. Like it doesn't matter if we win 1-0 because you're not going to even get a shot on goal. Charles asks, do you think this
15, by the way,
it was 15? Yeah. So yes, do you think this Arsenal team is serious about clean sheets or just kind of happening organically due to the system? Is it something that is deliberate that we're seeking clean sheets, or is this just the natural progression of just developing great defensive talent and having a strong structure around them?
I mean, he's asking you, but I'll answer it first, and you can pile on.
Yeah, take the first crack, Chris.
Yeah, I think this has always been Arteta's vision. When you look at when he first came, what did he do? Besides get rid of the problem children who didn't want to play off the ball and had a diva complex and, wasn't willing to get on side with where we were going, Aubameyang, Ozil, etc. Is he built from the back. He invested in the defense. And in fact, sometimes we would complain on this podcast, why are we putting more money in the defense when we've got an attack that is bare bones, that we're relying on players who have been here a long time that don't seem to be at the level? I think that gave us clue number 1. I think clue number 2 is just the way we play. We tried in 23, 24 or 22, 23, whatever that year was, where we competed for the title we didn't expect we were going to compete for. Yeah. And we ended up falling at the last hurdle because we had injuries to Tomiyasu and Saliba in the same Europa game. And we tried to play balls to the wall, kind of Klopp suicide football. And it worked really well and it was very entertaining. We all love that season. That season lives very fondly in my mind because I think there were a lot of great moments. We won a lot of 4-3, 3-2, stoppage time winners. I mean, that was one of the most fun seasons I ever had. But we didn't win anything. And I think Arteta's the kind of manager where when he has moments like that really, I think, emotionally scar him, he is going to do everything he can to prevent that from happening again. I think that's when we started to switch to a bit more of a pragmatic approach where we look to control games, where we look to outpossess the team, where we look to win the territory dominance battle. You look at, every statistic out there in terms of where we tend to spend most of the time with the ball, and it's in the opponent's final third, right? It's in their defensive third. And I think that's by design. It's because if they cannot touch the ball, if they don't have the ball in our third, they're gonna have a hard time scoring. But when they do, we're gonna run like mad to get back there. I mean, you guys are pricing the clips on social media. When we lose the ball, we have 10 players sprinting as fast as they can to get into shape. That is by design.
And that's been called out by multiple managers after matches too. This is one of those things that I feel like the general public, it's like that type of stuff is sneaking up on it. But like you even look at like the comparison, and I love kicking them because fuck them. But like when Chelsea gave up the winner in like the +5 minute to Southampton at home, they basically went and there was a long ball to a mediocre striker, and he just held it up and they had two defenders just standing there doing nothing.
Oh,
Nobody
that's
else
right.
chased and recovered in a position. This is at home against a newly promoted side. And they had one of the Southampton attackers just, or Sunderland attackers rather,
Yeah,
just
Sunderland
came unmolested, just a straight run down the pitch. Nobody followed him. None of the defenders followed him. None of the Moises Caicedo for Ballon d'Or just watched him walk right through. Just side footed in the net and they lost. So they went from, again, a game that they would have seen as a 3-point banker to getting nothing. And it's because they just didn't have the discipline and desire to recover into their defensive positions. Two center backs were there. They stood there and watched. They thought it was done. They didn't think that Robbie was going to do anything. And nobody tracked back. They thought they were just going to stink out the end of the game and take their draw and go home. And it was the easiest finish ever. It was almost like it would have been something that in a men's league game in Minnesota, I would have been really fucking annoyed by my team not getting back. And that's the top of the, and I think it's become such a regular, in order to be in a position where you play 15 matches in the modern Premier League with all the talent and all the strategic nous and everything, to give up so few goals and give so few chances, right?
Yep.
In order to do that, there has to be such a team-wide expectation of defensive excellence and recovery that it's a part of your DNA. And I think that reprogramming the Arsenal DNA, and it's maybe going to be something that hopefully in kind of the 5 to 8 years we look back and say, maybe Arteta's biggest accomplishment is changing culture. It's really difficult to change culture. And think of, for basically our entire fandom, I mean, starting in the banter years, we were the team that played pretty football and had a glass jaw. Looked really good, had a fun entrance, like did some fun stuff, but you punched him in the mouth. Couldn't do it. And like, we have the hardest jaw in football right now. Like, you cannot punch us in the mouth. And if you happen to hit us, we're just going to stare right back at you and punch you back because you cannot get to us like that. I mean, truly, we're looking at, we were out XG once this entire year, and that was against United when they were like had their tails up.
First game of the season, yeah.
And that's it. And again, we regularly win these matches to the extent that like XG matters to people, like 1.5 to 2 XG to nothing.
Yeah, it's less than 0.5. Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to kind of transfer this to kind of the punditry take. And it feels like, I think I wanted to go with this two-prong. Like, there's a really good like social media video that's going around now talking about how Arsenal are like the hipsters team almost, because it's almost like, even though we're not winning elite trophies, like our fan base is growing, and it's become like
we own the cultural streets, if you will.
Yeah,
maybe not the like trophy streets. Yes.
Yeah, we own the cultural streets because of all the things the club stands for. I think that there is certainly a intelligence about our marketing and our branding and our kind of representation of London specifically, and not only that, but like connecting with London and also like the global audience and global fan base. I think the club has done, and again with their partnership with Adidas too, have done an incredible job of penetrating. Another penetration reference, right? But like penetrating the kind of the psyche and the kind of socially conscious stratosphere of like the modern like U30, U35 person. And that's not necessarily something that was a thing when we became fans of this club, but it's something that's grown organically. And I think I honestly think that the discontent of the Yurdas and the mainstream media and the kind of calling out, I think strengthens that bond between club and fan, to be honest with you.
Yep.
I think we're in a position where it strengthens our resolve and our connection and our certainty that we're doing things the right way. And it just creates a bunker mentality that only strengthens the club in from the playing staff to the staff to the trainers to the fans to everything. And it's one of those things where the more you say Arsenal are boring and they're ruining everything and they're ruining football, and Premier League's never been more boring, and it's really a direct shot at Arsenal being a strong defensive team. The biggest thing that we go now to is like we are ourselves. Everybody's chanting set piece. So like I saw Chad Ocho Cinco.
Yeah.
When Arsenal scored their first goal on the set piece, Gyökeres, he's saying set piece ole. And so for the background, he's like a borderline Hall of Fame wide receiver for the NFL.
Yeah.
Like that's how that's how deep that's getting now. And he's not an Arsenal fan specifically. It's not like for American celebrities like Anne Hathaway or Josh Richardson or anybody like that. That's a card carrying Arsenal fan.
Likely, yeah.
It's one of those things where of course I'm going to do this at an hour and 15 minutes in. What happens in professional wrestling is that so people are organic. There are going to be people that the company pushes to get over, and over in wrestling terms is like becomes very popular with the fan base. And there's wrestlers that do it organically, and I feel like we are starting to do the thing where we are organically as a club getting over, and it's kind of our time to win titles. Yep. And again, I wish there was a script writer writing things because it would be our year to win, but it's obviously not. It's not up to the script writers, it's up to us to do that. But I think that there's a clear connection. There's a changing in the breeze here that we are at about 2/3 strength, and we have a 7-point lead in the league right now, and we've won 4 of our 4 Champions League matches, and we haven't conceded a goal, and we've conceded like 3 shots on target in the Champions League so far. Like those are things that they talk about sustainability. That's all of patterns of play and discipline and drilling, and has very little to do with this because we haven't had Kai Havertz, we've barely had Nani Madueke, we haven't had Odegaard, we have been missing Martinelli for big chunks. Like to the extent it matters, Gabriel Jesus is now back on the training pitch. Like we've been doing this with the type of injury record that other teams cry about, their managers cry about in press conferences, and we're just going about our business and just absolutely smothering like a fucking wet blanket on top of the face of football. We're just smothering the life out of them. And it seems like football doesn't have a way to come back at us right now.
Other than cry at the heavens and scream about how the rules should change so that, set pieces can't be scored as easily as they are right now by us. We're elite at a couple of very important things in football. One is team defending. We've just talked about how we may break the Premier League record for fewest goals conceded in a season. Second is set pieces. And they can call us Stoke FC all they want, but Stoke FC, I don't remember ever being top of the league in both the Champions League and the Premier League. So cry all you want, but it's a part of the game and it counts as a goal just like anything else. And third, I just think we're elite at control. I think we don't let teams play the game that they want to play against us. And if they want to play a certain game, we're happy to oblige because I think we can beat teams in a number of ways. We've been joking around on social media now for 5, 6, 7 weeks that a team like Crystal Palace sat deep because they felt like that was the only way they could beat us. But once we got that goal, it was over because they were never going to score against us. In fact, they didn't have a shot on target. If they wanted to play a more open game, be our guest. We'll smash you like we did against Atletico Madrid, where you come out and play and you leave gaps in between your lines, and we're going to cut you open like Thanksgiving turkey. So I think those are the 3 things we do really well. We can play any game you want to play. Pick your game and we'll beat you at it. I think a lot of that's down to control. We can control any sort of game state that comes at us. B, it's our world-class defense, and C, it's our set pieces. And when you have all those things clicking, we're a really tough customer to take down.
Yeah, I think it bears mentioning too, as we kind of outro here, 8 consecutive matches without allowing a goal. I mean, and again, this is in the modern football that prioritizes.
And that's an Arsenal record, by the way.
Yeah, Arsenal record. So first time since 1903. Where football was being played with like people with nails on the bottom of their shoes that on their break from the factory. Like that's the era we're talking about with not conceding goal. How rare that is. We have 2 more matches now. If we can get 2 more matches for clean sheets, that I've been told by the chat, I think 10 or 11 matches in a row without conceding a goal would be a record for football. And it's probably not going to happen because variance exists and everybody gets to football. And there's a lot of talent out there. But I think as we talk about sustainability, my argument with idiots online has been so far, and a lot of them are City people. It's like, well, Holland's just going to keep scoring. It's like, what's more likely? A team is going to continue to concede an infinitesimally small amount of chances, and they're all of a sudden going to either start conceding a ton of chances, or there's going to be an extended period over the course of the year where other teams are going to convert at a staggeringly high rate against some of the best individual defenders in the world, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, or is that going to happen, or are there going to be small periods where even the best striker in the world doesn't score? Because basically, I think at this point now, they've scored like 20 goals on the season. I think Holland has scored 15 of them. And Arsenal have scored a similar number and have nobody. I don't think anybody's scored more than Gyökeres' 6. And like 12 different players have scored for Arsenal. And we've scored a similar amount of goals. Like, I'm here to tell you, if you got a couple Sangrias and Pep Guardiola and pulled them off to the side and asked where he'd rather be, I think he'd be a lot more comfortable in a team that shares goals and doesn't have a single point of failure. And again, Erling Haaland is probably going to score 50 to 60 goals in all competitions this year. He's going to score 40 in the Premier League, and he's going to win the Ballon d'Or. But he can have all that shit if he doesn't win anything. And I think unless the rest of his team starts to catch up to his productivity and stops getting in ding-dongs with mediocre teams and stops relying on Haaland to double his XG every single game, I think eventually the idea that one player is going to single-handedly win all the big trophies for your team, and a player who has some priors for soft tissue injuries and going some stretches without scoring, versus a team whose entire identity is around ball control. And that's another thing too, that like we play by a mile the highest line in the Premier League, by the way. So for teams for media people want to talk about how we're restoring the game, making it boring. If other teams played a line approximating what we played, we would score 6 goals a match, because we have so much control and so much ball retention and suffocation when you try to get it back. Again, the most fun game that I always like to play is how high of a touch is David Raya going to get in this match? And it's usually at or inside the opponent's half during open play that Raya will come and take a touch, because we have all 22 men for both teams are in the opponent's half and earnestly playing with the ball and not just sweeping, like literally coming up and playing passes. And I don't think the kind of dinosaurs that want to chum up this talk sport cycle, I don't think they understand how difficult that is and how other teams don't do it because they can't do it. And other managers don't coach it because they can't. They're incapable of doing the things that we're doing right now. And I guarantee you, those other managers you're not hearing all the shit talk from other managers would gladly trade their patterns of play that leave them exposed and vulnerable for the type of unflinching control that Arteta delivers. But again, I said that this was going to be a 45-minute pod. Naturally, we're almost at an hour and a half. So it seems like a good time for the outro. Christian, where can they find you? What are you talking about these days?
West Suburban AFC. I've been really busy with work lately, but I have found time in the margins of my day to beef with pretty much everybody that I disagree with, which is pretty much all of Twitter. There's not enough people and not enough hours in the day for me to totally beef with everybody I want to beef with, but I pick and choose my battles. Real quick, Charles asked a question. I thought I would just briefly respond.
Thank you, Charles,
I think it's a good one.
Great questions in the chat too, Charles. Thank you.
Yeah, he asked 10 PL games in a row is indeed the record for clean sheets. When we defensively do such a shift, do you think true high-flying talents like Max Dowman will flourish in such a cagey system? I think there's always room for a technical player who has end product in any team. I think Manchester City plays the closest way that we play, and I think there is room for highly technical players who maybe don't do all sides of the game. Now, I will say, we're seeing Ethan and Eze, I think, struggling with the off the ball game that I think our system requires, and I think that those are some growth areas for them, and I think that's going to be the big growth area for Max. I think he's got all the tools on the ball. Close control, end product, passing, shooting, dribbling, all the things you'd want in a winger. I think the next evolution of his game is off the ball, and I think Arteta will demand that from him. And I think a lot of off the ball is about want to and not about ability. And I think he's the kind of kid who strikes me as, I want to be the best. I want to be among the best. And so I don't see that being a problem for him. It's just going to take time, because I think there's a lot of, again, not just want to and effort, but also I think there's some intelligence to it too. But I think the sky's the limit in terms of how intelligent he is. So I don't see that being a problem at all.
No, I think I would agree with that too. And especially like Arteta is a socially intelligent enough manager to, the early jam on him that he suppresses creativity was really a revulsion to laziness and disengagement. And so he's proven that highly technical players can flourish in his system, but there needs to be, and that two-way commitment makes you a better footballer, not just for Arsenal, but for your international team and for whatever next club you go to also. So there's a certain way that, I mean, I think a lot of players in their intelligence to better their career and be the very best footballer they can are willing to trade being a selfish luxury player who exists on the periphery of good teams and does whatever they want, like a Vinicius Jr. maybe. If we're looking at somebody with that kind of attitude. I think that there's an intelligence and availability of information, and we know too much about football now to not notice the type of elite two-way work that players do and understand its value to the game. And like, to the extent that Johnny Jerkoff from Lagos, Nigeria, from his mom's iPad doesn't like it because it doesn't score as many goals. I think that's something that does not bother elite footballers one iota.
No, it doesn't.
And when you're training here and when you make your bones here, and if you can succeed in the things that Arteta requires of you, I think that you can go anywhere and do anything at that point, because you'll be a very well-rounded footballer. And I think also it's instructive too that players who maybe don't have that reputation will come to Arteta and come to Arsenal and do those things, because, like you said, it's not an ability issue; it's an effort and application and game intelligence issue. And again, what's the biggest knock on Nani Madueke was that he was a one-way player, a selfish player.
Yeah,
like dancing with his headband on. And do we have any concerns at all about his engagement or defensive intensity based on what he did before he got hurt?
Nope.
I think that there's a way to there's a culture and an expectation from not just the manager and not just the technical staff, but from other players to do that. And I think the key leadership group, when you're talking about Saka and Gabriel and Declan Rice and some of these really big heads on the team, and Odegaard, obviously, that you'll never question when the defensive shift needs to be done, they'll do it. And the value and the intensity of playing both ways and doing everything that your manager and your teammates require is something that's an expectation. And those players ended up at the very top of the Premier League, in the top of the FIFA rankings, and the top of the like whatever plaudits you want to have. I think that there's a very tangible financial and sporting reward for the type of culture that we're instilling. And now what it's about is taking it the rest of the way. We're 95% of the way there. You've got to take it the rest of the way, and hopefully we do that. But anyway,
well said.
I'll cut it off there. So I am South Metro AFC. This has been Not an Arsenal podcast, the old shitty player de jour of Arsenal podcast. I have a hard time keeping track of it. Let's all go and troll
Hector Bellerin. That's why you forgot.
Yeah, it's basically it's a deliberate blackout. Then the Hector Bellerin of Arsenal podcast. You can see Hector Bellerin from the bench in mid-table Liga. You can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, X,
YouTube, obviously,
probably LimeWire. I don't fucking know. That's an old reference, but
you're showing your age.
I know. I try to keep the age of. I mean,
Napster,
Napster, the Napster of Arsenal podcast. We'll go with earmuffs to anybody who's under 40 in the chat. But we appreciate the chat. Again, we saw Nazir is in there. Charles was in there. We had people from South Africa. We had a great variety in the chats. And again, I know without Boss Man here, it ends up being a little bit staggered. But like Christian Norgard, hopefully I was able to raise the floor, even if I capped the ceiling as the host of this podcast. So
great deputizing. sir.
So it's all we can do. Just like Christian Norgard, I'm looking around, smiling, and being like, "This is the host chair." I'm feeling great. I'll be doing interviews with the football gerbil after this, talking about what it was like to replace the great man. But until next time, goodbye.
Peace. You actually have to stop it.
Right foot this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketchia, it's in, it's 4. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.